Hi there. Welcome to a new episode of Branding with Friends, the show where branding meets key business topics. Here you learn tips straight from the experts on everything from podcast hosting to content strategy to client experience. We focus on what you can do right now with these topics and the power of branding to attract your ideal clients. I'm your host, branding expert Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. I help service business owners tell their story and show their value through clear messaging and consistent branding. I'm also a former Disney storyteller, professional speaker, and the author of 2 best-selling books, Establish Yourself and Permission to Try. And today I am very excited to introduce you to one of my new friends in the business world. If you have been craving more visibility and email subscribers, you're going to love today's guest. My guest today is the amazing Benjamin Dell. Benjamin is the founder and CEO at HeySummit. That is the easy-to-use virtual event platform that helps you grow your audience and monetize your passion. Ben is a serial entrepreneur with multiple exits under his belt. His real passion, though, is creating impactful products that empower businesses and brands to grow and reach their goals. Ben, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure. It's wonderful to be here. It's nice to be on the other side.
It is. Yes, we had this unusual way that we met just about a month ago. You had hosted what I think was called the Creator Boot Camp. So this was an online summit, and we're about to talk about what an online summit is, but basically he had put out a call for speakers. He had a huge lineup, including folks from ConvertKit, Terry Rice, and maybe Pat Flynn, if you've heard of that name before. I pitched myself, and Ben accepted my submission, and I spoke at his Creator Bootcamp, and it was an incredible experience, and I was so impressed with his tool, which is called HeySummit. So I invited Ben to come on today, share his thoughts with you and recommendations if you want to get started with summits. It is a very powerful way to grow your audience. So we're going to be talking about that shortly. And he has brought along 3 tips for that. So if you're new to Branding with Friends, just know we're going to save that 3rd tip for the end because Ben's brought along a free gift for you if you're listening or watching. So we'll make some time for that today. But as we're getting started, Ben, tell me a little bit about, first, let's start here because people are wondering if they've never done one before, maybe they don't know what's called this. What is a summit or an online summit?
It can mean a few things to different people. And so the first bit of advice I'd give, and this is not the official tip, this is like a precursor to the tip, a little bonus one, I suppose, is to don't get too preoccupied with the association that you might currently have with the word or the phrase virtual summit or online event or something else, because it can often conjure up notions of a huge multi-day, multi-week kind of multi-speaker kind of event. And for most people, and a lot of people, it does, but it doesn't have to be. An event, as we see them within HeySummit, can literally be anything from a one-off webinar that you deliver with 1 or 2 speakers, maybe just one, through to maybe a couple of talks in a day, and you're just going to do, just cover a couple of topics, but you're going to split them out into a couple of talks, all the way through to a multi-day, multi-speaker kind of event. You can even do things in between where you do maybe one event, but on a regular basis. So you'll do maybe a fireside chat or an interview like this, but through a summit kind of scenario once a month for your community or something like that. So there really are many different ways to do it. So I definitely advise, don't get too caught up in that. It's really all about just engaging with your audience in a way that you are essentially sharing information with them, knowledge and advice from experts in the field. And the beauty of a virtual event, for me anyway, is that it almost doesn't matter how small or how niche the subject is. In fact, many ways it becomes more impactful the more niche the audience is or the subject is, because you can really kind of double down and get some experts in who just love to geek out and talk about and share knowledge on that particular subject. So yeah, long answer, but short sort of pithy thing there is it can be anything you need it to be.
So, and so how I have always seen online summit, and I think for the purpose of our conversation today, is it is also a strategy to grow your audience, to grow your visibility, and specifically get more people to sign up for your email marketing list. So if you have an email marketing list, but you don't have very many people on it, this can be a really great way to get some more eyes on it and to get people, like you were saying about niches, people who would be the right people to be on your list. So when you partner, this could be as simple as, Benjamin and I partnering. If we had invited all of you here to listen to us live and you had to sign up and give your email address, we would share, basically people who knew me would learn about Ben, people who know Ben would learn about me, and we would grow our audiences that way, because by registering for whatever event we were hosting, whatever format it was, they would be, opting into our email marketing list. right? Obviously you can unsubscribe and all those things, but that in a nutshell is what it is collaborating with other people to share your audience and get people to join your email list as a result, so that you have a way to connect to them and foster a relationship, scale your relationship, and sell your products and services over time. So I am just really happy that you have created this amazing tool called HeySummit, which is basically the platform that should have existed to make this easier. So it was incredibly easy for me as a speaker to log in to, you have a whole speaker dashboard that comes with this software where you can so like say you were thinking of planning something with like 3 different speakers. Each person can have a dashboard. Each person can put in their bio. They can offer something for free to get on their list. Like, it was just so seamlessly done and great for attendees as well, I assume. I need to go back through the replays myself. So anyway, that's a little bit about what an online summit is and what HeySummit is in relationship. It's basically a really easy to use platform that makes it super easy for you to do these kinds of events. And to get more people sharing audiences. So with that being said, I know Ben has brought us some 3 official tips. So if you just heard what we were talking about, you're like, yes, I need more visibility. Yes, I need more people on my list. I am very interested in getting started with this. What is the first thing that we should consider if we're going to get started with the world of online summits?
But I do want to just circle back, if I can, to kind of the one of the purposes and routes to, or one of the reasons why you might be running an event. Maybe we can circle back to that at the end, because it's a little bit more nuanced than that, and it's maybe an interesting way to think about things. But anyway, let's get back to the tips. So number 1, I would say just keep it simple. This is probably the most common piece of advice that I give. I talk to a lot of our customers. Typically in the first couple of days when they sign up, I offer sort of complimentary setup calls for a range of customers. Sometimes it's random depending on how busy our week has been. But the most common piece of advice I give is keep it simple. It's so tempting. Again, going back to that first sort of thing I said when trying to describe what an event can mean for you, it can be very easy to get caught up in the dogma that it needs to be very complicated and clever and everything else. And yeah, that has some benefits, but actually keeping it simple in the first, certainly if it's the first event you've done, is absolutely the way to go. It'll be less stressful. You'll actually learn a lot more because you'll know what worked and what didn't, because there'll be fewer variables to kind of contend with and work out. And it acts as a springboard to the next one. So keep it simple.
Yeah, I think that that's really good advice with like any marketing strategy, in particular this one, because I think we've all seen the like summits that are like 10 speakers, and you don't realize like with all those people and all those attendees, it's a lot of work. And it's if you've never done it before, I think starting small, getting some traction, getting that foothold can be really important, especially like if you don't have your brand developed yet, if you haven't been telling your brand story. This can help you kind of figure out what it is. And maybe, I think, it can be just an event with 1 other speaker or maybe 2 other speakers, and try to keep it, simple in length, simple in format, simple in, content, so that you can start to develop like what it is you believe, what it is you want to stand for, and make sure you get the right people in the room, because the more variables at play, the harder it is to make sure that like you have a shared audience, for example. And that's part of why you do this, is not to get just anybody coming to you, but the right kinds of people that you actually can value to. But kind of on that topic, I don't want to skip over your thoughts. So obviously I'd get given a very kind of simplified summary of why people do summits, but what else did you want to add to that conversation before we head to the second point?
It's kind of the same side, or the other side of the same coin, I suppose. But just noting that it can be either an out and out kind of list building, brand building kind of exercise where you're trying to capture new crowds, new audience, new members, and that's super powerful, and that's what a lot of our customers will do. It's to find new business or to find new leads. But actually, it can also and equally at the same time be an audience nurturing opportunity as well. So you have your pre-existing audience of say 1,000 people, 100 people, really doesn't matter the size. It's a really powerful, simple way to sort of deliver some out and out value and exhibit some value to that existing audience, to show them that you are kind of the arbiter, the owner of that kind of that space, and a domain expert, by bringing in, and this is one of the great things about events, by bringing in the speakers, it puts you on a pedestal just by being the person to round up these speakers, these experts in the field, which is so powerful. So you're bringing them in, and it's a nurturing opportunity. And so that's just a list building kind of thing, either new or nurturing the existing. But then on top of that, you've got revenue opportunities, because of course you can choose, you don't have to, but you can choose to sell tickets to your summit. And that could either be to the new audience that you're attracting or to the existing audience that you already have. So if you're thinking about ways to I hate to use the word, but monetize your audience.
Sure.
They're people at the end of the day, but we all run businesses, and that's what we're here for. If you're looking for ways to monetize your audience, putting on the odd or regular sort of summit is a really great way to sort of give them value, but actually have some funds in return for that through ticket sales. So really, really powerful for multiple reasons.
So what I heard you sort of add to that conversation were two big things. So one is that not only are summits a great way to build your list, but they're also a great way to like establish your credibility and kind of put yourself out there as a thought leader. So that's Absolutely. Kind of one piece. And I think that that's something, this is a really great avenue, guys, if you've heard me talk about consistency containers. So like Brandy with Friends is a consistency container. Brandy with Annie has been one. What are you doing to show up consistently? It could be as simple as doing a summit every quarter or something, or every month, where you trade an audience and you do some sort of event. And that by association with these experts, you become this. Part of why I do Brandy with Friends is that we help share audiences. Right. And I would also say, use this example, like, I didn't know who you were until you did this. And I was like, wow, he's doing this conference with ConvertKit and Pat Flynn. And like, we met and I was like, wow, you're the CEO. Like, let's talk. Like, I want to have you on my show. So that is exactly why we are talking today. Like, very meta here in the metaverse, for sure. And the other second thing that I heard you say was that HeySummit and summits in general can be used to sell tickets. So you can sort of run a virtual conference style event if you would like, where you charge admission for that. It can be a revenue stream for you. If you're delivering value that really should have some sort of, investment assigned to it, you can absolutely do that. That's such a really great element of HeySummit as well. So the one I was a part of happened to be a free event. And that is one way to build a list, but it can also be done to nurture and to make some money for your business as well.
But it doesn't just have to be the conference that you charge for. It could be you're doing regular interviews once a month, and you're doing that for your members only, and you charge $10 a month or whatever it is to access that. Or it could be even a one-off webinar and you charge for that. So again, it's down to you to decide whether you charge for what and all those sorts of things.
But either way, we want to keep it simple and start small.
Yep.
Right. So that's the first thing. So maybe if that feels a little intimidating, we're going to start with square one, which is going to be just an event, maybe with one or two other speakers.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Whatever that means to
Absolutely.
you. Right. Keep it simple, keep it small. So the inverse of that is actually your next tip. So if we're going to keep it simple and start small when it comes to doing an online summit of any sort, what's that next thing we should keep in mind?
Yeah. And it leads nicely from that example you gave, where just by me inviting you into the event, you'd never heard of me, the platform before, it made me appear to be a thought leader and someone of authority in the space, simply because I had some meaningful speakers there. So the second tip is, ironically, in opposition to the first tip, which is keep it simple, keep it small. When it comes to speakers, aim big. And the reason for this, and when I say aim big, I mean in terms of who you go out to ask to speak at your event. Be ambitious, go for the big names. And the reason for this is that you'd be surprised how quickly and how readily speakers will say yes. Now, there are some caveats, of course, with anything. Don't ask, a stupid example here. Don't ask a fishmonger to talk at a bakery summit, for example. You've got to target and approach your speakers and make sure that they are aligned to the audience, the subject matter that you're talking about or will be talking about. But if you get that right, I honestly can only remember on probably one hand, and probably only two of those fingers, I think, how many times in the last 5 years since we've been running, where I've been running and I've run multiple events where people have said no. You'd be surprised. And actually, I think I've only had one time where a speaker has actually asked to be paid. And that's another common question that people get, which we can just wrap up into the same tip, which is aim big in terms of speakers. But also don't get preoccupied with this idea, or don't be fearful that you shouldn't be, because they're going to be asking for lots of money. Generally speaking, they will expect, not just accept, but expect to do it for free, because they see it as a way to build audience and get in front of a new audience and etc. Everything else as well.
And that's really become the name of the game in online business as well. And I think you're sitting at the intersection of that is like, I talk to my clients all the time, and I personally don't have a big audience, and I know many of them have little to none. They don't have a list. They have very little followers. And what I say is, like, you could absolutely have a business like that. But, and I am proof of that. Like, I have a really, great, consistent 6-figure business that is continually growing. That being said, like, most of our challenges in the world that I know is people don't know we exist. That it's not because we're not great at what we do, it's that they don't know that we exist. And so everybody is, in the name of game of online business, getting in front of new people, building awareness of what you do and who you are is really how you grow and really how you build a sustainable business. So if you don't like social media, this is another way of doing it, right? Like just another flavor of online strategy you can try and employ. Maybe you're more of a people person, etc. You still have to promote it, you still have to market it, all of those good things. But I just, all that to say, like, you have these big names. Part of why they are saying yes, even though they're big names, or part of why they would do it for free, is because even they know that awareness is the biggest barrier, right? As people don't know that they exist, they don't know about their ecosystem, they don't know about their great product or book or whatever it is that they do. And so the more people that know that they are around, their bottom line changes, right?
But they also know the power of a focused audience. So again, don't get caught up in this feeling that it needs to be 1,000, 10,000 speaker audience event. It could be 100. But if they're focused and passionate around your subject matter, speakers understand the power of speaking in front of fans, of advocates, of ambassadors of that kind of thought area or subject matter or whatever it is. Super, super powerful. For you as well as the speaker, of course.
And I'll speak to that as a case study. Is, I didn't know you until about a month. We did this summit, it was mid-May, and now it's mid-June. And within 2 weeks of your event, I had booked a dream client out of it who had never heard of me. She's awesome. And it was such a great fit. And I'm so excited. And she's doing one of my higher, branding, done for you branding solutions. And it's like, could not be a better fit. And only came to me because I pitched, that was in the works months before. And I had pitched myself for this. You had said, yes, I did a great event, all of those things had to happen in a certain way, but that's why we do it, right?
That's amazing. Kudos. Well
done. Thank you. And thank you for including me, even though I'm not, the big luminaries of the Pat Flynn's and the Terry Rices and these folks, but, we're all on a journey.
Absolutely.
So you've been telling us, we've got several tips so far, but I want to make sure we pause here because you brought something along for our Branding with Friends audience. So what is that thing? If we're curious about trying out HeySummit, I know you've got a little bit of a special deal. What's that about?
Yeah, so in very simplistic terms, 6 months, or for the first 6 months, I should say, using HeySummit on any of the plans that you choose to go on, 25% off. Now, we don't usually go for as long as 6 months. We usually do sort of 2 or 3 months, or maybe your first month, you get a slight discount. So you won't see this offer many places, other places. If any, I'm trying to think there must be one somewhere, but it was a long time ago. That's just a bit of legalese just to cover myself in case you find it somewhere else. But yeah, 25% off any plan for the first 6 months. We operate monthly and annual plans, and you can cancel at any point. So, give it 6 months. And if you don't like it or don't need it after that, you're welcome to cancel. No strings attached, no contracts, all those ugly things that just frustrate the hell out of me. So yeah, all the good stuff, hopefully none of the downside.
Yeah, of course. Well, if you've been curious about doing an event, I really can't recommend this software enough because, Ben didn't ask me to do this. I just thought it was so impressive that I asked him to come on. And if this episode has gotten you thinking about more clarity and consistency in your business, are you clear enough to be able to host an event? Are you confident enough in your story to be able to put your brand out there and share it with other audiences? If you're not, have a chat with me. You can always set a free time to talk with me at greateststorycreative.com. So Ben, you've been telling us we need to keep it simple and start small. We should aim big for speakers. And what is that third thing we should keep in mind?
So these are all related. They're all part of what I would like to think of as a bit of a flywheel to kind of help sort of move you on. One leads onto the other and creates a nice, healthy kind of growth cycle, if you will. And this third tip is run more than once. Run more than one, I should say. And the flip side of that is the reason we can do that is because we're treating the very first one that we put on as an experiment. Just remember, especially if you haven't done an event before on HeySummit, it is an experiment. You want to see what works for you, what kind of presentational styles work for you, and what sort of audience numbers feel good for you, ticketing strategies. These are things that you don't know what you don't know until you've done that first event. So keep it super simple, keep it nice and lean. But then remember that the real power is taking what you've learned from the first one and applying it to the next. And that isn't just us saying, stay with us for longer and we'd love to keep you on as a customer. Of course we would. But it is honestly where we see the most impact from our customers. It's when they actually apply their learnings to the next one. And it's when they end up sort of 3, 4, 5 timesing the revenue or the leads that they made in the first one, because they're now applying what works. And this just really talks to the fact that, because I'm a big advocate for learning by doing, not learning by just being told, because it's very easy to be told lots of common practice and best practice, all those sorts of things, but very rarely do they work specifically for your situation. And so it would be wrong of me or anyone else to say this is exactly how you want to run a perfect event, which is why I say keep it simple so that you can learn your own lessons and what works for your particular audience and your style and everything else, so that you can apply it to the next one. But really, that is where we see our customers have the most impact. And it's great to see kind of that sort of aha moment when they go, oh, that's the thing that really works. I'm going to do more of that, less of that, charge in this way, maybe reduce the price there, increase the price there. And it's great to see the revenue that they make in the second, third, and fourth events.
I'm really glad that you kind of ended with that flywheel, that piece of run it more than once. And I think that is really great advice across the board, and especially to think about your business overall. Like, I am a business strategist as well. The idea of that this is all like an experiment. It's all the tinkering. And I think the people who stay in the game, I'm grateful to be celebrating almost 10 years in business shortly. And the people who make it, who have the business that can flourish and grow, are willing to be scientists, are willing to test hypotheses and run experiments, and know that the first time isn't the only time. And I was literally just talking to my assistant right before this, that I was like, I need to count. I just ran a great workshop and I built it, built the plane. I was flying it. I'm so proud of it. It's called Package or Process. And feedback was great, but my instinct is always on to the next thing. And I was talking to her, I was like, no, we're going to sit here and set the next dates for Package or Process, because my natural status is to like just create. And it's like, that's great. But the engine in which I grow my business is putting effort into making things better. So I have a great product. I have this incredible workshop series. And now what I need to do is strengthen it, make it better, take the feedback, apply it, even better the next time, even better the next time. And I think the more I can tell, you and I can be the ambassadors for coaches and consultants and service business owners, and tell them, if you did it once, you didn't do it. You only did it enough to see what the promise of it was, not the full potential. Because I think I am a recovering perfectionist. So many of the people I coach are perfectionists or don't realize that they are. And they really want all those outward signs of success, that if it wasn't this big thing, they're more than willing to scrap it and try the next thing just to see if they hit pay dirt. And it's like, it's all a process. Like, that's always been my experience. It sounds like it's been yours. And I think if you're thinking about getting started with summits, if you're working on your brand, it takes tinkering, it takes time, and it takes giving yourself a chance to try it again and again, and to make it better over time. So, be that scientist, keep it small, aim big for speakers, and run more than one if you want to try this really great strategy. Ben, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Thank you, Benjamin Dell with HeySummit. Be sure to check out HeySummit and the special discount code that he's sharing with us today. It'll be here wherever you're listening or watching this episode. And I hope you enjoyed yet another episode of Branding with Friends. So many thanks again to Ben for joining us. Tune in next time when we're going to tackle another topic where branding and business meet. Until then, I'm Annie Franceschi of Greatest Story Creative. You can find all our episodes, branding resources, and so much more on our website at greateststorycreative.com. Stay awesome.